Here. Okay, all right, so good morning, happy Tuesday. All right, so progress reports. If you're not a B-Day kid, I'll make sure those get mailed out if you're not going to be here. Okay, so like I said, I've got two. I've got one that has your overall grade and it's for all classes. And then I went ahead and printed out my own. Again, this is more for my personal reference. You know, if you've got access to PowerSchool, you can see it. But anyway, if you want it, I got it. Now, let's go ahead and hit the bell ringer and get running. Don't forget what's coming up this week as far as due dates that we've got. Today, you're going to turn in your story, and we've been doing it together, so we'll finish that up with Lady Liberty, and that's due online today for everybody. Let's see, Lady Liberty story today. Thursday is Honors Project 1, which I realized this morning that I forgot to print off a paper copy. If anybody wants a paper copy of Honors Project 2 instructions, I forgot to do that, but I can do it at the end if you want it. So we won't intro into what Honors Project 2 is yet until next week, unless you're just dying to know. But Honors Project 2 is Thursday. Don't forget all 3 pieces. The cereal box, which you just can take pictures of, unless you want to turn it in person, but not necessary. Cereal box, resume, and a quick little commercial. So 3 pieces for that due on Thursday, and then Friday is that immigration packet. And oh god, I don't remember. Does anybody remember without me looking what date I put for the IDs?
It's Thursday.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. I almost said Thursday, but I was afraid without looking. Okay. All right. That's what we got. Let's go ahead and do it. We do have another video clip to get to today. Even, oh, I don't want to say it. My internet's been really sketchy today. We'll see how it goes. All right. Bell ringer review from yesterday. What was Jacob Riis talking about in his book, How the Other Half Lives? What groups is he comparing in his book? Now, he obviously is showing more pictures of one side versus the other. Austin, what's he kind of comparing?
Like the lower class and higher class people.
Right, yeah, he's basically looking at what I keep saying, that the haves versus the have-nots. Your upper class Americans that are living in their penthouse apartments versus the lower class Americans, because, I mean, yeah, there is a middle class, but they're still seeing way more struggles than what the upper class is. So his book does focus on the other half being mostly lower class Americans. Kind of what we saw yesterday. His book is full of pictures of like the kids playing in the street next to the dead horse, you know, little kids running around bald because that was the easiest way to get rid of their lice, because they're not able to bathe that often. So if we just go ahead and, you know, take a sharpened knife and, you know, just cut all their hair off, that'll be the easiest way for us to get a hold of, get rid of lice. That's the infant mortality rate. You know, kids are dying at a crazy rate because of disease, pollution, trash, and all that. All right, part 2. What was he trying to accomplish in getting these images out to the public? And again, he is focusing, and he not only did he write his book, but he is going to do what he calls a picture slideshow, because yeah, this is still, technology is really early. So we're doing almost like a projector and putting slides in it. And he's showing images to those wealthy upper class individuals that have the money, right, to donate to charity and good causes, and don't have strings attached by politicians, and can work harder to try and accomplish something. Excuse me, I thought I was going to sneeze. He's trying really hard to push for change. He is essentially a very early progressive. We're not there yet as far as that era goes, but he is trying to push for change, push for progress, and make a change, because he himself at one point in time was a poor immigrant, and he's worked hard to achieve the American dream and is able to help others make change. But that's what he's trying to accomplish. He's trying to accomplish change. Okay, now let's go ahead and jump into notes. And if you've got the packet of notes, we're going to jump and we're going to try and push hard to move through some of this. So if you see something that you're not able to get and you did want to write it down, don't forget that I've already shared those Google Docs with you under the class materials folder inside of your individual units. So if I go over something too fast, it's mostly for time. It's not because I don't want you to get it. But we got a lot of stuff to hit in a very short amount of time if we're going to squeeze everything else in. Okay, so remember we skipped to page, I want to say it was 53. We skipped ahead a little bit yesterday. So we're going to finish that page. It should say turn of the century. Is that right? Yeah. So we're going to finish turn of the century, and then we're going to intro into one more page. We're going to intro into the Gilded Age. And what gilded means is it looks good on the outside, but it's really nasty and awful on the inside. And I always kind of think of like a rotten egg. Like you take a rotten egg and you paint it gold. From the outside, it looks pretty and shiny and nice. But if you crack it open, it's dirty, stinky, nasty, makes you want to puke in your mouth kind of a situation, right? But that's kind of what city life is like during this time period. It looks great on the outside, looks like we're busy, we're making money, our industries are up and running, but on the inside, there's corruption. There's, these cities are dirty, overcrowded, stinky, smelly, don't have all the services that they need. And again, a lot of political corruption going on. And we've got to fix it. We've got to make a lot of change. Okay, sorry, I forgot that I haven't fixed my screen. And I'm going to have to bounce my virtual people kind of back and forth on this one. Okay, all right. So speaking of corruption, we're actually going to start with what the government is changing for the good, right? Before we talk about the bad. The Morrill Act in 1862 is where the government is going to start pushing for education. We're going to start focusing on making sure that we have good agricultural schools, and we can brag here in North Carolina that we've got a couple of really good agricultural schools. Of course, that's what most people know NC State for, as well as A&T up in Greensboro. So we are pushing to try and come up with better technology to help our farmers, especially those that are out west. We already realized those out west are struggling because they have to figure out all the things. They have to deal with blizzards and droughts and windstorms and prairie fires, just to name a few. But we're trying to figure out better technology as far as agriculture goes. There's only a small number of students going to college. We talked about that yesterday. We talked about why. It's because usually it's only your upper class, right, that has the time and the money to go. And we're going to change what we are pushing. Besides agriculture, anybody want to guess the other two big areas during the turn of the century that if you went to school, you probably went to school to be this or this? You just guess. What two areas? Stab in the dark. You just had to throw out a top profession that you would need to go to school for. Okay, all right, business. Yeah, I'm just going to roll that into the category of business. Yes. Doctors, come on. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, right? What?
Lawyers.
Lawyers, thank you. Doctors, lawyers, and business are really the three big ones that we're pushing that you're going to go to school for. And if you're a woman, and again, at the turn of the century, it's a little sketchy because we really thought still, when I say we, I mean society, not me in particular, I mean society, that it was just a waste of time to educate a woman. But if a woman did go to school, it was going to be for one of two things, either to be a nurse or to be a teacher. All right, I'm going to flip it back over. Okay, again, I'm going to hit these kind of fast. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Still haven't figured out the sweet spot to get this to move. Okay. All right. What about turn of the century? We're also going to see more entertainment come about. We're pushing out more books. We'll talk about the very beginning of movies here in just a second. Sporting events. Again, we're starting to get to the point where a lot of people have some free time and free money to go, or not free money, what am I saying? Free time and money to actually go out and do something with it. We see a lot of books during this time period in what we call the realism, to where they're focusing on how life really is versus a lot of fiction novels coming out, even though we do have some of those. We've got art, again, focusing on how city life really is. The very beginning of art galleries opening up, public libraries, and then I've got just a couple of authors. We've got Samuel Clemens, which he actually goes by nom de plume. He actually goes by another name on his books. Oh geez, and for right now it's not coming to me. That's horrible. Oh well, it'll come to it. That is his actual birth name, is Samuel Clemens, but that's not what he goes by on his books. But he wrote the series of Huck Finn, Tom Sawyer. Oh, that's going to aggravate me so bad. Anyway, it'll come to me randomly sometime today. Stephen King, Red Badge of Courage, Jack London, and The Call of the Wild. I think this is so interesting to talk about this. So this, like a lot of stuff, is a book before it later becomes usually TV shows or movies, sometimes both. But this is actually the most recent movie that has just come out. I don't know if anybody even went to go see it, but it's got Harrison Ford in it. Nope. Okay. The Harrison Ford fans. Anyway, it did recently come out. I haven't watched it yet, but it did recently come out. And they're all kind of dime novels, and it's kind of a, I don't know, easy reason as to why, because they're only a dime. All right, what about the new crazes at the turn of the century? So before cars, people are super excited and jacked up to be purchasing their very own bicycle. Turn of the century, we see the bicycle craze pop up. Here's an interesting fun fact. Bicycles were actually more popular with women, even though the irony is that women during this time period only are allowed to wear dresses and skirts. That's all you wore, all right? There is no such thing as a woman wearing pants unless she's trying to disguise herself as a man. That's like the only situation. And that was a very rare occasion. So how is it that these ladies in these ankle length skirts and dresses are able to ride bikes? Let me ask you a question. And just show of hands, who has seen The Wizard of Oz? Wizard of Oz? Yeah? Okay. All right. So that might help you visualize more. Anyway, I got a picture I'll show you here in a second, and I'll show you how she does it. But bicycle craze comes up. Very first amusement park, Coney Island. Again, this turn of the century, we actually are starting to save a little bit of money to actually go and have some type of fun instead of working in factories all day. Tennis becomes popular. And we'll talk about a few more sports. The very beginning of Hershey bars and Coca-Cola. I think this is fascinating. Coca-Cola was created by a pharmacist. He actually came up with, if you've ever worked in a fast food restaurant, you've seen how they make the soft drinks, and they have it, they have the syrup, and the syrup gets mixed in with the carbonated water stuff. And he made the recipe for the syrup when he was a pharmacist. He just kind of played around. It's the coca leaf plant extract and the cola, I don't know, I might have said that wrong. But anyway, it's leaf extract with bean extract. And then he mixed it together, made the syrup, was selling the syrup as an elixir, like putting it in a little tiny little dropper bottle and selling it as an elixir to give you energy, because we know soft drinks have what? Caffeine, right? He was selling it as like an energized drink, as well as I think for headaches. I think he even advertised it would help get rid of headaches. even though ironically enough, anyway, we won't talk about that. But here's the thing. Somebody came and said, hey, I want to buy you out. I want to buy that recipe from you. They bought the recipe for his little, again, syrup stuff for like $4,000 and then made it into the company that we know it today. And when that guy sold it, he sold it for $4 million. Yeah, so crazy story. But again, Coca-Cola, one of the first, and then Pepsi is going to be right there with them. And then the Hershey bar coming out as chocolate bar. But when World War I comes about, they changed the recipe to make it into a protein bar for soldiers, and we're putting it in soldiers' backpacks. And we're like, hey, if you're out there and you ain't got nothing else to eat, grab you one of those Hershey protein bars, which they said they'd rather eat dirt. They were horribly awful. And they told him, you know, Mr. Hershey, you need to stick just regular chocolate bars because that is barf in a bag right there. Don't do that. So anyway, we've got our chocolate and our soft drinks during the turn of the century. All right, so here she is. All right, this is an example of a lady on her bike. What she has done, because you don't really want your skirt or dress to get caught up in the spokes, is that she's taken it and like taken her skirt and rolled it and tucked it into her socks. And that's how she's actually able to ride her bike. Look at her, so happy about her little bicycle. She's so proud. But yeah, it was most popular for women. Felt like it gave them some independence, bless their hearts. Okay, what about movies? Let me get this to scoot over. The very beginning of movies, and I'll talk about that in a second. But first, go ahead and star this because it is a trivia question on your unit quiz, is that I'm going to ask you what the very first paid baseball team is. And it is the Cincinnati Red Sox that gets started in 1869, the very first salaried baseball team. Baseball, we call it America's favorite pastime because it was actually Civil War soldiers that started playing baseball, or a form of it, to give them some kind of enjoyment and a break away from the horrors of war. So it starts to become very popular around the 1850s and 60s, and then it takes off after the Civil War is over. Again, we now have our very first salaried baseball teams, but that's not all. We also get into boxing, basketball, and football, but football becomes popular as a college sport because we don't actually have anything like the NFL and I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really know what the other, what is it for basketball?
What is that?
NBA.
I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't know all the letters. Yeah. So the professional sports at that level are not yet there. They do become popular at college level before you see anything like that created. Going to the circus, traveling circuses were a way for people to get away from the sad life again of working in big cities and factories and all the things. So traveling circuses were a big thing. Going to variety shows, almost like these little town fairs that would pop up. That was a way for people to just go and relax. Ragtime music is popular at the turn of the century. It is definitely a happy, upbeat music that a lot of people associate more of like Dixieland blues kind of. It's upbeat, it's happy. You hear it more in the South and Southwest. And then the very beginning of movies. So the very beginning of movies in their infancy were essentially slides, and somebody had to be back there just rolling the projector, black and white images, and they were silent films. And you might have one of two things. You might either have them have like little quote boxes pop up, and then God forbid you have to read while at the movies. Yeah. Or sometimes they would have a narrator. They would have somebody that would read the quote boxes out loud as they popped up. Or if they didn't have any of that, you might have somebody who's a pianist playing background music so that it's not just really awkward silence while you're watching a black and white film. So those are the very beginning of movies. A couple of big ones are the 1903 Great Train Robbery again. People were just fascinated with the Wild West, the idea of cowboys and Indians and robberies and gunfights, all the things. And then 1904, the birth of a nation, where we see very clearly that our nation is still very much divided on how they feel about how society is changing at the turn of the century. Okay, I don't know why my picture didn't pop up there. I think it was just a baseball field. Nope, that was the baseball field. Okay, last couple of things, and then we got to run pretty fast to our next page. Dime novels, there again, we said it's books that only cost a dime. Magazines are popular. Yellow journalism, and we're actually going to talk about this more when we get into next week's chapter 14 stuff. But the idea of exaggerating the truth to sell a story. Because again, it's all about competition, and you got to push to make sure that your company or business is making the most money. So during a time period where people really didn't care if you lied about a story, you weren't going to get in trouble for it. We have these newspapers and magazines that are, well, exaggerating the truth to see who can sell more copies and make more money. So it's kind of like those fish stories. You know, I went fishing and it was this big, and the next person you say it was this big, and so on and so on. So exaggerating the truth, that's what we call yellow journalism. Exaggerating the truth in order to make a bigger profit. Let's see. Being able to sell products. We see the very beginning of billboards, the very beginning of advertisements in newspapers and magazines. Again, a lot of times exaggerating the truth just to make a profit. And these guys, we're actually going to talk about, again, more in chapter 14, but two of the biggest newspaper writers are going to be Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst. So Pulitzer is working for the New York World, and then Hearst is working for the New York Journal. Again, two major competing newspaper companies trying to make that money. And that's how you heard everything. You either picked up a newspaper or magazine, or you listened to it on the radio, and that's the only way you got news. Again, we don't have TV yet. We ain't got there yet. All right, last but not least, before we got to skip, hop, jump, run to the other one. All right. We talked about this last week. We said the very beginning of department stores, right? So the very first department stores, Macy's, Kohl's, and Sears are actually among the very first. And it's pretty cool to see that for the most part. They might not be as popular, but they're still around today. Chain stores, Woolworths. That's almost, especially here for Randolph County, it's more like a Dollar General. You feel like they're everywhere. Right? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if one started building right next to my neighborhood. I'm just saying, they're everywhere. But chain stores become popular at the end of the 1800s. And a Woolworths is a little bit different, and you don't see these anymore. But a Woolworths was only like, it was more like a 3-in-1, because the very front had like a lunch counter area, almost like having a cookout inside of a Dollar General, inside of a CVS. Like it had all those different pieces. It had the pharmacy in the back, the lunch counter up front, little general store area. They were really interesting little stores, but it's because we needed, well, what we've grown into today, right? Super Walmarts, right? We feel like we need just a one-stop shop, and that's what these started out as. From what we have today. And again, if you could not come to the big city to buy it, that's fine. Flip open your catalog, and that's what this is. It's the cover of a catalog in 1900. So I thought that was pretty cool. You can order anything your heart desires, order it through the catalog, and it'll get to you somewhere between 8 and 12 months later. I'm saying that Amazon ain't got nothing on that, right? I got excited. I ordered something yesterday. It's supposed to come today. Thought, man, They are what? Hashtag killing it. Yeah, is that still popular? I don't know. Okay, we have got one more thing to look at before we get into our video clip and all the pieces. We're actually going to back it up, and we're going to go back. Let's see. It says Gilded Age. Just go backwards. What page is that? I see it. The Gilded Age. Say it again. 50. All right, so back it up to page 50. And I'm sorry, I know we hop around just a little bit. Okay, so we're going to hit just a couple of things, and then we got to run. Oh, trivia question. I love historical trivia, especially presidential trivia. And that's why I'm super excited about y'all's cereal boxes, because I always look to see if somebody can stump me. And I forget who was it last year that got me good. Like, I did not know it. Can't remember. Anyway, so does anybody know how many U.S. presidents have been assassinated? How many? Give me a number. How many U.S. presidents have been assassinated?
4.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Anybody? Other guesses? No? You don't even want to try? It's no fun. It's 4. It's 4. Yeah. Now, of course, those are the ones that actually got shot and killed. There's been a lot more attempts that were close calls, like Reagan. Reagan was a super close call. And then one of my favorite top 10 presidents of all time, TR, Theodore Roosevelt. I call him TR because I feel like we would have been like best friends. I feel like we would have. He, oh my God, he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. Why? Because the man gets shot in the chest, giving a speech. And it's like, I'm gonna finish my speech. And they're like, but Mr. President, you're shot. And he's like, no, I'm gonna finish my speech. I'm like, that is a badass right there. You know what I'm saying? Man, finished his speech and then went to go get checked out. I'm like, God, man, it's cool. Okay. All right, anyway, we're about to talk about one of the 4 that got assassinated and how it went down. Everybody remembers the first. Okay, who's the first to get assassinated? You talked about American War. Maybe tell me, who is it? Abraham Lincoln. Everybody remembers the first, and most people remember the last to be assassinated. JFK. Yeah, but it's the 2 in the middle that most everybody forgets about. And we're about to talk about number 2 here in just a second. So, why is it so many people during this time period want to get into a government job? Because it means money. It means money and power. And to be honest with you, most of them do not care about doing what's right for citizens, because they're just, hey, they just see dollar signs. And that's exactly what this political cartoon is picking about. They see dollar signs. They see power and money in that job. So that's why we see graft, right? Getting money through dishonest or questionable means, getting kickbacks, these big companies giving them thousands of dollars, free tickets, free merchandise. Just don't make any new laws against my company making money. Fraud, again, whatever it takes. So again, this is the time period where we got to make change. We got to do something, because this is only going to help the rich to get richer and the poor to get poorer. Because last week we talked about America's first millionaires and billionaires. We talked about Vanderbilt and Carnegie and Rockefeller, and how these guys with all this almost limitless power were able to just build these huge companies, but they're building it on the backs of poor workers. So obviously we got to push for change. And again, guys, if you need me to come back later to get something, I can, but we got to kind of push fast if we can, so I can get to the point and we can get to our activities. Okay. So yesterday, we didn't quite get to it with your question, but I want you to star it, circle it, highlight the whole box. What is a political machine? You got to know it. It's going to be a quiz question, test question, midterm question. You got to know what a political machine is, which is right here. When a party comes to dominate an area, and I think that's the part that's already there for you. You got to know it. So, for example, William Boss Tweed, he's not on this page. He's on the next one, I think. He is going to control all of New York City for about 10 years. Him and his Democratic Party. And again, they're there because of power and money. They're not there because they actually want to help. And this actually goes back to Andrew Jackson, good old AJ. All right. AJ, for most people, is in the top 10 worst presidents for a variety of reasons. But AJ is going to introduce the school system, and we still have it up to this point in time at the turn of the century. But we got to make a change. But unfortunately, the president that tries to make change is the one that's going to get assassinated for it. Yeah. So he took one. He took one for the team on that one. We'll talk about how it happens and who he was. But the idea of the spoil system is giving out government jobs to supporters of like, hey man, I campaigned for you. I helped you get elected. I was there passing out information and talking to people. You owe me a job for helping you out. Because again, I said government jobs mean power and money. So they expected to get a reward, meaning a government position, if they helped them out, right? But here's the big question. Why did American citizens allow this to happen? And it's because a big chunk of society are those lower class Americans. And those lower class Americans don't really have much wiggle room because these guys have so much power. So they can pretty much say, if you don't vote for me, I'm going to get you fired. If you don't vote for me, I'm going to get you kicked out of your apartment. If you don't vote for me, I'm going to make sure your life is miserable. There's a small amount that actually did the opposite, that said, hey, if you vote for me, I'm going to give you a better job. I want to make sure you have a better apartment. I want to get you food. I'm going to pay your bills. That was a small percentage. Most of them were using threats versus positive reinforcement. And so that's how they kept so much power until, and I'll show you his name here in a second, Thomas Nast. Thomas Nast is a political cartoonist, and he's the guy that actually comes up with the elephant and the donkey that represent our political parties. And I really hate to tell you, you would think that there would be like a really awesome story as to how he picks the donkey and the elephant. But he's just being a hater. He's hating on both political parties. He was making fun of both of them because he said Republicans were just big, dumb, stupid animals and that Democrats were jackasses. And so that's how he drew it, and it just stuck. And I just kind of question, like, if that was my political party, why would I want to keep that as the mascot? But I don't know. They just went with it, right? Okay, sure, it makes sense. So anyway, these party bosses are going to get ready to lose control once the upper class realizes what they're doing, right? Cities were growing so fast that these political machines were able to capitalize on this. And there's no secret ballots. So if I want to come and watch every single one of you vote, I can. And that's how they knew whether or not you voted for who they told you to vote for. And during this time period, women can't vote. It's only men. And for the most part, it is only white men, just because a lot of minorities were scared out of voting. You know, they were scared away from it because they knew what was coming if they voted the wrong way, and just for the most part stayed away from it. All right, so here he is. This is our question from your IDs the other day. William Boss Tweed is controlling what we call the Tweed Ring. Tammany Hall is where he and his guys were. Again, they controlled it and had power over it for about a solid 10 years. And here he is, Mr. Thomas Nast. He's the guy that starts doing all those political cartoons, making fun of these political bosses and how corrupt they were, how much power they had, and how much power they were using. Okay, we're not going to be able to finish. We're going to have to stop because we've got to move on. So I'll let you guys grab that. All right, so let me go ahead and tell you who it is. Rutherford B. Hayes comes in office and wants to make change as far as political corruption goes, but ends up, for a lack of a better phrase, just kind of getting scared away from it. And for good reason, because the next guy that's going to come up and try and make change is James Garfield. And most people don't even know that we had a President Garfield because he's only in office for, let's just round it. Let's say 5 months. Let's just round it. He was in office for 5 months. He had somebody that demanded a government job for helping him to campaign. He said, no, you don't deserve it. You don't know anything about this job. Garfield is having a conversation with somebody one day. The guy walks in, shoots Garfield in the back, and turns around and leaves. Now, Garfield, which I can't imagine this would be horrible, doesn't die immediately. He like hangs around for like 60 days after he's been shot before he finally dies from his wounds, which I would imagine would be very miserable. But Garfield dies. Again, he wasn't but in office but about 5 months, and then his VP, was Chester Arthur, comes in, and in Garfield's honor creates something that gets rid of the school system, all right, and ends it for good. But sometimes, it's sad to say it this way, sometimes bad things have to happen for change to come. It's not always the case, but a lot of times it is very much true. So it took a presidential assassination for us to realize we need to make change, and we got to do it fast before something else comes about. So we didn't finish, I know, but we're going to have to hit the pause button because we got 3 more things to take care of. And fingers crossed, I can get my video clip to play. And my internet was being super sketchy, so I don't know if it'll work or not, but we're going to give it a try. All right, so I'm going to intro into it really quick. So our focus has been on Ellis Island, Statue of Liberty, and all the things, right? Well, here's what I think is interesting. Thinking about the future, and I can very well see this happening in the future. Can technology make mistakes? Is technology perfect? No, absolutely not. I've witnessed this on more than one occasion this semester alone. But no, more last semester. Okay. You know how I said mistakes could happen at Ellis Island as immigrants are checking in, and they might have, you know, maybe somebody had a lot of freckles and they didn't take time to look and realize it was freckles and not chicken pox. And they just said they had chicken pox or smallpox and deported them, right? Mistakes happen all the time. Well, very much true. Technology can make mistakes. If you've never seen Will Smith in I Am Legend, he is trying to help his family get off the island of Manhattan. They're about to lock down the whole entire island because there's I don't know, they're turning into zombies because some kind of shot they thought cured cancer doesn't actually cure cancer. It turns you into a cannibal monster thing. I don't really know what they call them. But they have this computer scanner that scans your eyes. And when it scans your eyes, it's supposed to be able to tell whether or not you have the disease or not. So check out how this goes when we try to use technology. And we're not trying to just rely on human experience. Did I ask y'all yesterday, has anybody seen this movie, like the actual whole movie? Man, just not a lot of Will Smith fans, I guess.
You're clear. Go ahead. Clear. All good. All good. Stand down. Stand down, soldier. Stand down. I have a talk to her. Scanner. Scanner. right, scanner again. It's clear. It's clear. Move through. Wait,
'Kay. All right. So anyway, you got to see that their scanner messed up. So technology is in no way, shape, or form perfect. And whoops, let me do that. And so it's pretty obvious that mistakes can happen, whether you're using technology or whether you're trying to use humans to figure it all out. But I just thought that was an interesting, more futuristic look on, you know, if the same thing.
I Am Legend is about a zombie-like horde wiping out much of humanity, but its confusing ending and butterfly symbolism become a lot more clear if you understand the personal journey of its hero. Created by genetically altering measles, Crippen virus seemed like a miracle.
Wait a minute. Okay, sorry. I was freaking out there for a second. It's okay. All right, now here's what I want to do. Let's go to IDs. Then we're going to finish your story, turn in your story and immigration packet, and we're going to try and do this as fast as possible because I'm talking too much today. I realize that. I'm sorry. I told you I love my fun facts. Okay, all right, we're going to hit the Gilded Age super fast. There's only a couple of questions and IDs, and then we'll move on. Okay, so 19 says, what was the main idea of social Darwinism? And I'm very sorry to say that we didn't quite push that far, even though I touched on it in chapter 12. But social Darwinism is the idea, here's what I want you to write down: survival of the fittest in business. Survival of the fittest in business. That was 19. So you should remember hitting something about Darwinism in like science class and evolution, right? And again, you know, the fittest and, you know, best survival skills are going to make it, right? And everybody else is going to have to evolve to be able to keep up. Well, this is true in the business world. This is how Rockefeller and Carnegie and JP Morgan and all those guys justify their wealth. I've worked hard and I earn it and I deserve what I have because I've pushed to make it happen. All right, 20. What actions did Congress take to regulate big business? And we're probably going to hit on it tomorrow. Here's what I want you to write: Sherman Antitrust Act. SHERMAN, Sherman Antitrust, TRUST, Trust Act. That is going to be the very first law they're going to start to push through to regulate big business. It's not very strong, it doesn't work very well, but it is at least something. It is a step in the right direction. All right, and 21. What was the purpose of a settlement house? We talked about this yesterday. It is essentially a homeless shelter. Write that down. Homeless shelter for women and children. Homeless shelter for women and children. All right, and then we talked about a lot of these IDs already. We said Gilded Age looks good on the outside, corrupt on the inside. '23, Gospel of Wealth, helping those less fortunate. Helping those less fortunate. Oh, wait a minute, I messed up. I just gave you the definition for 24. I messed up, my bad. 24 is helping those less fortunate. 23 is essentially being a philanthropist, that if you have money, you should give it away to good causes. Like creating something, like creating, Carnegie creates libraries and schools. He's not helping individuals particularly, he's just helping other facets of life. And Jane Addams is our first social worker. First social worker. All right, and like I said, if you missed one, I can go back in just a second. I'm just trying to conserve time because I know I'm running way over. All right, super quick, fast, and in a hurry. We're going to do Lady of Liberty, answer those questions. I'll get that from you. And then we'll just squeeze out whatever we can from that immigration packet. I'm sorry, guys. All right, I'm going to summarize because there's no way I can go through and read this whole thing and still have time left over. So for time's sake, we're just going to talk about the questions. All right, number one says, why did the French give the Statue of Liberty to the U.S.? It was a sign of friendship. It was a gift. The Statue of Liberty was a gift. Again, sign of friendship. They helped us during the American Revolution. We had helped them. And it was just a sign of friendship. It was a gift. It was dedicated in 1886 as a memorial to the alliance between France and the American colonists during the Revolution. So it was a gift. Number two, explain the symbolic meaning of the main parts of the statue. And if you just want to list it out, that is perfectly fine. So I'm going to read it. You don't have to write all this. I'm just going to read what they are. So Lady Liberty holds up a burning torch. So a burning torch. She wears a crown of 7 spikes. The 7 spikes represent the 7 seas and 7 continents. So torch, crown. In her left arm, she has a tablet that has the date July 4th, 1776. So tablet, crown, burning torch, and at her feet is a broken chain. Broken chain. Anybody want to guess what a broken chain is supposed to symbolize? Freedom. Come on, freedom. I mean, that is Lady Liberty, right? I mean, she is supposed to represent the idea of opportunity and freedom and justice for all. And last but not least, number 3, what new meanings did the statue take on over the years? Explain the meanings of why they probably occurred. So obviously throughout time, Lady Liberty has meant different things to different people. And again, you can list it out. You don't have to write complete sentences. I just said some of them, right? Freedom, opportunity, justice, safety. Think about all the immigrants that come into the United States that are looking for a safe haven. They're refugees running from something. Think about individuals that came into the US before, during, or after World War II. That's a great example. They're looking for safety. They're looking for new opportunity, a better life. Maybe they're getting away from political persecution, religious persecution. The Irish that came over after the potato famine, right? And then even today, people come to the United States because one of the number one things they want is the American dream. And the American dream for everybody is a little bit different. But the American dream, the idea that you can maybe have it all. You know, for some people, it's just the idea to have a good job. For, you know, the idea to be able to educate their children. The idea to be able to make something of themselves. Okay, again, I hate I had to summarize, but it's just for time constraints. All right, last but not least, and again, if you're on Zoom, God bless you for staying with me, but we're going to go to your immigration packets. So grab that. All right, we're going to go to the back of the first page. We're going to finish the fill in the blank. And if any of you guys need to go and watch the recording later, I get it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take that long. Too many fun facts. That's what it is. Too many fun facts. All right, let's see how you do. Number 23 on the back says they often lived apart in neighborhoods that had such nicknames as Little Italy and was a good guess. I talked about this one last week. Chinatown, yeah. Chinatown, which is that third column, fourth word, Chinatown. All right, 24 says the first law to limit immigration passed by Congress during the 1880s kept out criminals, insane people, and individuals who were unable to care for themselves. Yep. Themselves. That's that fourth column towards the bottom. 25 says the Oriental Exclusion Act halted this group from immigration during the 1880s. Let's see, where's it at? Chinese, it's in the second column. It's the Chinese. I did it again, where am I at? 26, Japanese immigration was reduced by the, where's it at? Gentlemen's agreements. That's that first column, gentlemen's agreements between the US and Japan in 1904 and then ended entirely in 1921. 27 says beginning in 1917, only people who could pass a blank which proved they could read and write were allowed to enter the US. Literacy test, yep. Literacy test, that's the first one on that third column. 28, after World War I, the US government decided that the country's blank was growing fast enough without adding 1 million or more immigrants each year. And we're going to come up with a quota system. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Wait a minute. I might have given you the wrong answer. Hold on. Oh, no, I did give you the wrong one. Where's it at? Population. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's population. I got ahead of myself. 29, Congress sharply reduced immigration by establishing the quota system. Sorry, I got too excited. Which pretty much listed the number of people from each foreign country that entered the US each year. 30, the Immigration Quota Act of 1924, the National Origins Act of 1929, and the McCarran-Walter Act of 1952 continued the quota system but placed no limits on immigrants from Canada. Yeah, have you ever heard anybody say, let's stop all the Canadians coming in? I mean, did you know that we actually have a large number of actors and singers that are Canadian? I didn't know that. Okay, moving on. 31, after World War II, Congress passed the Displacement Persons Act and blank in order to accept large numbers of people fleeing from war-torn nations. It's the Refugee Relief Act. Refugee Relief Act. All right, last couple. 32, the quota system was done away with during the 1960s and replaced by a new law which permitted 120,000 immigrants each year and 170,000 from other countries around the world, gave preference to refugees, people with special blank. Skills and talents. Yep. Skills and talents. 33, an immigrant who has not yet become an American citizen is called a, say it again. Alien. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just didn't hear you. Yeah, alien. 34, the process by which an alien becomes a U.S. citizen is called this. Should have talked about this in civics. First column, second to the last word. Naturalization. And last but not least, 35, among the many requirements for becoming a naturalized citizen, a person must live in the U.S. for 5 years, show knowledge of U.S. history, government, and be able to read, blank, and speak English. Right. Yes. Okay, so that gives you the top part of that. Let's see what our time is. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. Took so long. Have a good one. Bye.